Good evening, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. We'll begin this evening with an invocation by Reverend Chuck Ireson, Bunker Hill United Methodist Church.
Let us pray. God of community and communion, first we thank you for your grace and mercy that is renewed to us each day. We thank you for this time together and all who are gathered here. And we thank you for each of these who have answered the call to serve the people of Kernersville. We ask you to grant them listening ears to hear each other and those who come to speak before them. Grant them wisdom to discern the truth and to make decisions that will be pleasing to you, to know what is right and good and true. Grant them courage to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly before you. And give them a servant's heart, seeking not their own glory, but the common good of all. Again, Lord, we thank you for your wonderful gift of this community of Kernersville in which we live. Make us good stewards of its resources and good neighbors to each other. It is in your most precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. So today is Wednesday, September 27th, and we're glad you can join us this evening for our meeting. We'll begin with a public hearing. When an agenda item is denoted as a public hearing, persons attending shall be permitted to address the Board of Aldermen regarding the item under consideration, those speaking in favor speaking first, and then those against speaking second. Proponents and opponents shall each be given 20 minutes of time to speak and may choose to allow one speaker to utilize that time or choose to allocate the time amongst different speakers. In the event that either proponents or opponents have not designated a speaker or speakers to represent that view, the mayor shall divide the 20 minutes by the number of speakers wishing to address the Board of Aldermen, and each speaker shall have that time to express their comments, ideas, concerns, and expressions. After the opponents speak, the mayor will allow the proponents 5 minutes for rebuttal. If the proponents choose to exercise this option, the opponents will also have 5 minutes for rebuttal. In the event the proponents do not present a rebuttal, then the opponents shall be given no further time to speak. That policy is printed on the agenda and is a standard policy adopted by the Board of Aldermen. All right, so item 1 is a public hearing on an annexation. If you'd like to speak on this public hearing, or if you'd like to speak on the item 1B, which is a rezoning, if you could fill out or item C, which is another annexation, if you could fill out a speaker card in the back of the room and bring it to the town attorney, Ed Powell, who's sitting here at this table here, or the town manager sitting again at this table here, or if you'd like to speak on any of the public session items, please feel free to fill out the speaker card and indicate that interest. All right, the first public hearing is item 1A. It's a public hearing on an annexation brought by Weldon Commercial Holdings, LLC, Weldon Residential Holdings, LLC, Parks Family Holdings, LLC, PM Development, LLC, Weldon Phase 2, LLC, and Jeffrey Smith for 49.35 acres, more or less, as listed on the agenda. This is a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open. Ms. Gardner, will we be hearing your presentation in connection with the rezoning as well?
There will be a presentation for the rezoning. There's no presentation for the annexation. It is related to the rezoning, and it only includes those parcels under consideration for the rezoning.
Okay, so we'll also include item 1B in this public hearing. Milt Rhodes, agent for PM Development, owner for a two-phase conditional use rezoning from Forsyth County Ag and NOS to the town of Kernersville, TNDC, Traditional Neighborhood Development Conditional Use District, for properties as listed on the agenda under zoning docket K641A9. That is item B on the agenda. So it is a public hearing. The public hearing's open, and we'll first hear from Ms. Garner for our staff presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tonight's rezoning case is K641A9, which is Amendment 9. The petitioner is Milt Rhodes, agent for PM Development LLC as the property owner. The proposed zoning amendment is from Forsyth County Ag and Neighborhood Office Special Use and Town of Kernersville Ag to TNDC, which is Traditional Neighborhood Development Conditional, which is the existing zoning for Weldon today. Adjacent zoning in the town of Kernersville includes residential, mixed use, additional TNDS, and general business. Forsyth County adjacent zoning is residential, both RS20 and RS30, manufactured home, limited business, and agricultural. The proposed Weldon project is located within the land use plan's designated area of the North Carolina 66 Old Salem Road Metro Activity Center, and the requested amendment for the additional growth of Weldon continues to support the adopted elements of the Metro Activity Center with enhanced landscaping, open space, and building designs that reflect the characteristics of the area. TNDC proposes uses that are specific to this site plan. They are consistent with those uses and conditions that have been previously approved with what we know as the Weldon rezoning, which is K641A7, adopted in 2015. They're not proposing any changes to that which was already approved, so this is just the same conditions onto additional land versus amending the existing proposal. The land use plan designations are in place for these parcels to be annexed and rezoned without requiring additional land use plan amendments. The two-phase rezoning for the addition of these 11 parcels shall be developed with consistency to the existing master plan of the village center and the mixed residential areas. The developer has requested the conditions adopted for that parent case, K641A7, to continue with this amendment and apply to these additional parcels. With the approval of a two-phase rezoning, the final development plan for development of each site is reviewed for approval by the planning board, and then following final development plan approval, verification of compliance for development will be determined during the building permits and civil plan review. The addition and development of the proposed parcels will incorporate the connectivity identified in the 2015 master plan and is consistent with the current thoroughfare plan as well. It shows the Cross Village Parkway and its approximate location as it heads west, and some of the other major nodes heading out to Old Salem Road and NC 66. Again, with the uses, there are no proposed changes to the previously approved uses or conditions, so those would carry forward to this additional acreage. This was provided by the applicant as part of their application, showing an update on the plan and what's been done to date. So from 2016 to 2024, which is the column on the left, it shows the areas that are under development and have been completed, and then their proposed phasing for the next horizon, both in terms of 6 years on the shorter term horizon and the longer term horizon beyond 2030. This build-out plan was also submitted by the applicant, and it shows the anticipated uses and the approximate acreage of each type of use that's proposed at Weldon. Being a traditional neighborhood design, there's elements of many different use types, both commercial, civic, residential, and open space. Staff's recommendation is to amend the zoning ordinance of the town by rezoning the properties in case K641A9 from Forsyth County Ag and NOS and TOK Ag to TNDC. Finding the rezoning is both consistent with the town's comprehensive plan and being both reasonable and in the public interest because the traditional neighborhood development conditional use zoning district assists in implementing the town's land use plan by promoting the development of the entire NC 66 and Old Salem Road Metro Activity Center. And the TNDC and conditional use district conditions include the detailed design standards for the buildings and the site plans in order to create the strong sense of place and facilitate the Kernersville development plan goals to enhance Kernersville's small town atmosphere and establish Kernersville as a unique, high-quality community within the triad. Staff's recommendations also include to approve the site plan with the following conditions. Uses as shown in the Appendix A. The following are conditions related to the Cross Village Parkway and relate to how it will be shown on final development plans, both in terms of its location and the design, and then its construction as well. Staff also recommends the approval of the site plan subject to the conditions from that original rezoning of K641A7, and then that final development plans submitted for review shall be consistent with the two-phase rezoning plans submitted with this application. This was heard at Planning Board in August. It was originally scheduled for later in the spring, but we spent a lot of time working with the developer and making sure those conditions on the Cross Village Parkway were correct for both the developer and for the town. When it was heard in August, this was the Planning Board vote. All members were voting in favor, with one member absent. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Ms. Garner. All right, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor?
Good evening. Milt Rhodes, 412 North Marshall Street, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, for the owners of the property. Thank you for your time and consideration tonight. It's taken us a while to get here, and I'm really...
Let me stop you there. Can everyone hear, Milt? If you could...
Speak up a
maybe
little bit.
Or you can hold the microphone higher up on the podium. There might be another shelf you can put it on.
Gotcha. This doesn't... There we go. Okay. I do like...
Curtis, is it on? I can't tell from here.
I'll talk like this.
All right.
Milt Rhodes, 412 North Marshall Street, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, for the owners of the property. Thank you for your time and consideration tonight. And like I said, we're very excited to be here tonight. It's taken us a while to get here. We've had a lot of work with a number of different folks in this room and outside of this room to get to this point. I have Brent Cockrum here with me tonight also. He's our engineer that has been working with us extensively on this project. You know, initially, a long time ago, Forsyth County, through their legacy plan, established these growth areas, these growth nodes, metro activity centers. And this particular area that was referenced in Catherine's presentation, the Southeast Kernersville Metro Activity Center, became this landing zone for designated future growth. And as a result of that, infrastructure was steered this way. And so that decision 20 plus years ago paved the way for the growth that we're seeing now in this part of Kernersville, and wisely they put the infrastructure in to do that. Weldon came about as a result of that. Initially it was a project known as Carrollton. The recession did what it did to that. The hospitals moved to where they moved to, and with the town's involvement, we embarked on this Weldon Village long-term growth plan, this master plan for our part of the Southeast Metro Activity Center, and looking at the properties that were around us, and then identifying properties that became available as the previous owners decided to move on to their next thing. Gave us an opportunity to close some gaps in the initial Weldon Village assemblage. Whether it was with John and Tammy Slade or Mike Phipps or Dewey Knight or the Jeff Smith or the Stafford family, we worked over the years to close these gaps, to bring it into the Weldon Village umbrella and ensure consistency across those boundaries. And with the boundaries that we've worked in, either by the roads we build or the roads that we build for the town, closing these gaps was really important. So I'm excited to be able to work with y'all going into that part of this project going forward. Having this consistency lets me do my job as designated vision keeper for what we set forth in 2014 through the vision book into reality. And as we grow the project with new businesses and services and homes and residents for the town, whether they're from off or from here, it's nice to see that happen, and I look forward to continue working with y'all on executing this vision. And that's all I have to say. Catherine, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Milt. I'll recognize Brent Cochran at this time.
Good evening. Hold on. Good evening, Brent Cockrum with FEI Civil Engineers and Land Surveyors, 8518 Triad Drive, Colfax. Again, I am the engineer of record for the project for Weldon. We've been working with both Catherine and Chris pretty closely as we've developed these plans and anticipate moving very quickly into some of these areas with the future development. But I'm here for any technical questions, anything you've got that you've seen on the plans you might have questions about, I'll be happy to answer. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of the annexation or the rezoning? Okay, seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the annexation or the rezoning? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Does the board have any questions for our staff or?
Madam Mayor, I have a question for Catherine. It's been my observation that this Weldon Village has moved along very smoothly, and it seems like it's well planned and well executed. And I just wanted to ask you, is that what the town thinks at this point in time?
I think all development comes with challenges, but I think that they've got a very qualified team that they're working with, and so we're able to work through any challenge that arises and resolve it in a manner that's mutually beneficial.
Good deal. Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Okay, is there any discussion or any more questions? Do I have a motion?
I'd make a motion
On the annexation, we'll vote on them separate.
on the annexation.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion to approve the annexation is recommended by staff. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? It's unanimous. We'll give Keith a moment because he's got to note the time. Are you ready? Okay. All right, now we are on 1B, the public hearing on the rezoning. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion for approval with the rezoning and site plan with the conditions as recommended by staff. Do I have a second?
I'd second.
Got a second by Alderman Barrow. All those in favor? It's unanimous. All right, moving on then to item C, which is also a public hearing. This is consideration of a petition by Curtis Swisher, agent for the town of Kernersville, for a non-contiguous annexation of property located at 9414 West Market Street. This is a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open. Ms. Garner, do you have a presentation on this one, or is this one Mr. Swisher?
No, ma'am, it's just the annexation for the Colfax Fire Station.
Okay. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Anyone here to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion for approval by Alderman Thompson,
Second.
second by Alderman Penix. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right, item 2 is the public session. First, we have speakers from the floor. Is there anyone here who'd like to address the board on an agenda item that is not, or anyone here who'd like to address the board on an item that is not otherwise included on the agenda for the public session? All right, seeing none, we'll move to item 2B, which is consideration of a request for a temporary street closure for Harmon Lane.
Madam Mayor and Board, you have in your packet the special use permit. It's for a Kernersville fall market that's being put on by one of the businesses downtown. It'll be in Harmon Park, and they're also asking to close Harmon Lane during that time, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. on October the 28th. Not an issue with closing that street. They always work with the one individual there that does live on the street, and it's not an issue.
Okay, do I have a motion? Motion to accept the request. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Barrow. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Chris Thompson made the motion. Okay, item C is consideration of acceptance of a bid to demolish property located at 225 Pitt Street. Mr. Swisher?
This is the property that was discussed probably 2 months ago. It's Pitt Street, which is a street up off of North Main. The house is down at the very end on the left. the house has no water, no power, several issues with it. Basically, it's about to fall in. None of the heirs showed any interest in the house having it, taking responsibility for it. We put out bids, the board approved demolition of it due to the safety concerns. We had folks living in there that really was not safe. We put bids out and we got the bids back, and as you can see, the low bid for demolition is $5,924, which is quite a bit cheaper than I thought it would be. So we're recommending awarding the demolition contract to Double D Construction Services.
Okay, do I have any questions, or do I have a motion? Motion for approval by Alderman Penix. Second by Alderman Thompson. All those in favor? It's unanimous. All right, we are to the consent agenda. These items are considered to be routine by the Board of Aldermen and will be enacted by one motion with no separate discussion unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the matter will be removed from the consent agenda and considered under the following item. Item A, approval of minutes for the August 30th regular meeting. That's the only thing on the consent agenda. Is there anyone in the audience, citizens or staff who'd like to see any of this item removed from the consent agenda for discussion? Any aldermen like to see this removed? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion by Alderman Thompson,
I'd second.
second by Alderman Barrow. All in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, we are to briefing on the October 3rd meeting agenda. Mr. Swisher, if you could handle that.
The first two items, public hearing, item A and item B, both of those are related. Is that correct, Catherine? Both those are related. One of them's annexation, and then item B is the rezoning on that property. This property is just about directly across the street from Glenn High School. It's 36.54 acres, and it's looking to be rezoned from agriculture, which is typical out in that area currently, because it's basically in years past has been a farm, to general business conditional use district. So they will have someone here to present that plan. Catherine will have the staff report as well. Items 2.
Mr. Swisher, could you move your microphone more centered?
Is that good?
Yeah, that's better.
All right. Item 2, of course, item 2A, speaker from the floor. Item 2B is a presentation by the Friends of the Garden. I think they're having a statue of Mr. Senior built, constructed, I don't know what you call that, but having a statue done. They would like to present that to the board so that they can place it. It's in the garden, somewhere there in the garden. They'll have a rendering of that statue to show the board. Item 2C is an ordinance prohibiting the use of pine straw and pine needles in certain locations related to multifamily apartment dwellings. We've had 2 or 3 fires in the last couple of years. All of those, 2 or 3 of them that have started from pine needles that are placed up against apartments. They are very combustible. What happens, folks throw a cigarette in the pine straw, go back inside, and before you know it, the apartment's on fire. And one of them burned completely down. One of them they caught before it burned down. Winston, High Point, Forsyth County has also adopted the same ordinance. We've talked to the apartment owners. There are 46 apartment complexes in Kernersville, and only five of those will be impacted by this ordinance. 5 of them minimally. One of them uses pine needles pretty heavily, so one of them would really have to change kind of what they're doing. The other 40, it would not impact at all because they don't use it, but we're trying to get it in place. Number one, to prevent fires at apartments, because they always have a tendency to happen late at night when everybody's asleep. And the worst thing that happens is the fire goes up the apartment, goes up the outside, and then somehow fire makes its way over to the stair rails, and the folks can't get out. So fortunately, the ones we had, I think one of them was during the day, and maybe both of them. But we'll have some pictures also of those. So we have that ordinance before you. Suzanne Murray from the Fire Marshal's office will also be here Tuesday night to answer any questions
So
that you
Curtis,
may have.
let me ask you to repeat that. So there's 46 apartment buildings in Kernersville,
Correct.
and 6 of them use,
6 of them, and out of the 6, only 1 of them uses them heavily. The other 5 have them in some areas. They don't have them all across the whole complex. They just have them in certain areas where they would not be able to use them. And some of them, the ones that are brick, the only ones that it impacts are the ones that have a material on the side that will burn. If it's vinyl, wood, something like that. So, but yes, that's correct. 46, only 6 would be impacted, and out of the 6, only 1 of them would be really impacted.
so how large of a building is like considered to be an apartment? Like any kind of multifamily?
If it's a single family, like a detached or townhome, a duplex, a triplex, or a quadruplex, they would not be. But if it's a multifamily apartment building like Central Lake Apartments, Donnell Villas, places like that, the Hawthorne, they would be impacted.
Okay.
But the ones like at McConnell, those areas would not be, because they're duplexes or quadplexes. They wouldn't be. But now, the buildings as you go into McConnell on the left would be. They're 3 stories, so they would be impacted. And I think they're one of the 40 that doesn't use pine needles anyway. Most folks have gone away from them for this very reason, but fire department's trying to be proactive and go ahead and get that ordinance in place in case, we're seeing a lot of them being built. So we want the ordinance in place so that the ones that are being built will know, hey, you can't use this, you need to use some other type of covering.
Well, the fires, as you mentioned, have been devastating and very dangerous.
Yeah. Just trying to prevent one, where we don't have a loss of life or something and it start from pine needles. So item D is discussion regarding grant funding for the Visitor Center and the Kernersville Foundation. The town received a grant last year that was a pass-through grant to each of those agencies. We will have their request for that grant funding. We're going to ask them to fill out the request the same way that they did for the regular funding in the budget. We'll have that to attach to it hopefully by Friday. So we'll attach that. Budget amendment number 2, we'll have that uploaded by either Friday or Monday. It's a pretty short budget amendment, but there's some things we need to go ahead and get in the budget, get it amended. Item F, declaring property surplus and authorizing disposal. We'll have the full list for everyone by Friday or Monday. G, downtown crosswalks. You have a memo from myself to you all. We have looked at all of the crosswalks downtown. There are about, when you take in the ones downtown and then the ones over on Nelson Street, there are about 9 crosswalks. Really all you would be doing is making a recommendation, giving us authority to move forward and start discussions with DOT regarding some improvements to those crosswalks. 6 of those crosswalks, we think we can do high visibility striping. It's a little bit more involved than just striping it. You have to take up what's there, then go back with a high visibility. Most of those are in the downtown area. And then there's a few that we're recommending for some other improvements, whether, the one at Nelson Street and Bodenhammer Street, adding a chirping sound, things like that, to the crosswalk in hopes of making all of those safer. Is what we've noticed in the last couple of 3 years. We've really seen a lot of increase in pedestrian traffic downtown, folks walking, especially in the fall and the spring. We're anticipating that increasing as we see more and more people using the Greenway. They come off the Greenway and come up downtown. We're already starting to see that. If you're there on a Saturday, you can see them come off the Greenway, come up Oakhurst, and then go down Cherry Street or on up to Main Street. So we're looking at kind of getting those crosswalks a little bit safer for everyone that's using those. We have a map in here. It's an interactive map. If you click on it, it'll label the crosswalk for you and also tell you what's being recommended at that crosswalk. We'll cover that in a little more detail.
Now, I have a couple things to add to that. So Bill Apple and I have been talking to a lot of citizens who have an interest in improving the certain crosswalks, and so we expanded a little bit and really would like the board to look closely at this. And the story map is by Megan on our IT staff, and if you'll go to that page and then click on the link, it'll take you to a map that she and I worked on together for different locations of these crosswalks, which we've all been by, but it has some photographs. Some the town had, some photographs I took when I went out with Doran recently looking at them. So kind of the idea is what can we do to make it easier to walk around downtown, but also go from downtown and cross over to go onto the Greenway, or go on the Greenway and cross over to go to downtown. So maybe someone could walk to a festival or event or a restaurant, or just extend their walk or their run more safely. So the connections on Nelson Street, of course, I drive in that area as JR does frequently, and there are some individuals in Kernersville who use that quite a bit that we've noticed, and so just to improve the safety of those. Nelson Street's a little difficult, and that's in the story map because with the change in the business mix that has been there, that signal at Nelson and Piney Grove is a demand light, and so there's less traffic coming across. And so the people who want to cross there, the light's not changing as often for them. So if there was a demand signal they could push, then the light could change and be, red a little bit longer to permit safer crossing there. So if you can look at that list of the crosswalks and think about any other areas in town that we ought to be pursuing. Some of the things we'd like to have done previously, but DOT had some concerns, so we've revisited that with them. And then this would be the first step in maybe a more formal process to get some of these improvements on the ground. Go ahead, Curtis.
And that's all I have on it. As you can see, when you click on the link for the map and click on that link that's inside there, as you scroll down the map, it has on the left where the crosswalk is at, and then on the right it shows a picture of it. So, and then it tells what, kind of what we would be looking for from DOT or from the town or whomever to do the crosswalk. All the crosswalks are on DOT roads, at least a portion of it. I think probably all of them. All of the crosswalks on DOT roads. So we would have to work with DOT on that. And again, Tuesday night, we wouldn't be asking really for any funding or any of that. We would just be asking to go out to get permission from the board to look at those upgrades, see what those would cost, and then come back with kind of a plan as to what to do.
And when you click on the link, after you click on the link, like Curtis said, and then you look at the individual pedestrian crossings, there's a photo on the right, but there's arrows there too. So there's photos stacked behind other photos. So if you'll click on the photo, if you'll click on the button near the photos, you'll see more than one photo is there. They're like in a stack digitally. So if you have any other photos you'd like to contribute or other areas you think that we ought to look at this time, let's talk about that too. Okay.
And then item 3, the consent agenda, we have one set of closed session minutes, and then anything removed from the consent agenda, and then the town manager and town attorney's report. And matters by the mayor and board of aldermen.
Any questions about anything on the upcoming agenda? All right, so we have the town manager's report tonight.
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay, matters to be presented by the town attorney.
I don't have a report, however, do have a need for a closed session.
Okay, and then matters to be presented by the mayor and board of aldermen. Chris, would you like to start? Do you want to talk about your run?
That was my walk. We had a great Build It race downtown 2 weeks ago to raise money for local school teachers because they have to spend so much money out of pocket. So it was a race to basically get donations of materials as well as raise money for the local teachers to help pay for a lot of the kids' supplies for school. So it's a good race.
And a great turnout by Winston-Salem Forsyth County school personnel at it as well.
It sure was. Yep. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, Mr. Barrow? We can't hear you.
I got a couple of things. somebody had contacted me about the crews around Kernersville putting in, I reckon it's underground cable or something. They've been raising all kinds of hell about that.
Would you like, and I meant to address that in my portion.
Please address that in depth,
You want me to go
Mr.
ahead and
Swisher.
address it now, or you
Yes.
Well, yeah.
The long and short of it, Alderman Barrow, is there are a lot of crews around town doing it. Some of them do a better job than others. That's the short of it. To make it even shorter is there's nothing the town can do about it. That's Article 42 of the North Carolina General Statutes that grants the franchising authority for cable to the Secretary of State. And they are acting under that franchising authority. Now, whether it's really cable or not, I guess is to be up in the air. But, and then we don't have really any authority. It also sets out that we have to issue them an encroachment permit. So they are allowed to work in the right of way. Some situations, they don't even need an encroachment permit. Some of them, they do. I think we've issued Brightspeed, I don't know who's doing the work now, but Brightspeed had been doing the work in certain areas. We issued them an encroachment permit across town. All that they have to do is they have to replace whatever they dig up, and they have to go back and fix. It doesn't really state what constitutes repairing it. You know, the concern comes in, a lot of folks, you know, if they're in your yard, they've done a lot of work on the yard. I got a text from a guy today, I mean, immaculate yard, everything, and I mean, they dug it up and put a junction box in it. It won't go back like he had it. Still, all we can require them to do is put it back. I did text Senator Krovic yesterday. I texted her the picture of this gentleman's yard and said, hey, look, we're getting beat up with calls from people about Brightspeed, Lumos, I mean, you name it, they're out there saying that it, you know, where does it stop? Because every 30 days, 90 days, whatever, there's a new one digging up the right of way. And she said, you know, I'll check on it and see. I told her for reference what article it was and all of that. And she said, I'll check on it and see if there's anything we can do. Well, this morning I received a call from a representative in Senator Berger's office and told her the same thing. And she said, well, you know, I'll see if there's something we can do. You know, they are allowed to do that per the general statutes and whatnot. So basically, you know, something that has to be changed at the state level, or they need to really clarify that fiber optic is not part of the cable service. The definition, Mr. Hooker and I looked it up today, the definition for cable service, and I forget, what was the other one, cable service and cable what? There was two that it outlined, and we looked the definition of them up, and it doesn't specify. You know, it could basically be satellite, it could be the regular cable lines above ground, underground, it could be fiber optic. So what it is basically it's defined as anything that does a one-way transmission of video or something like that. So they are operating under the authority granted to them through the state, and we don't have the authority to override that. And I will tell you, it is in some areas a mess. I mean, just to be honest, they've done pretty good, most of them, about going back and fixing it. But you know, the thing is, they come in and they paint up the sidewalks, they paint up the grass, they paint up the road, then they dig up the road. And the problem is, the biggest problem is a lot of people do not realize that there might be a 10 or 15 foot utility right away from the back of the sidewalk, and if you've got a 25-foot deep yard, they're halfway up your yard. And we had the same thing happen about 3 or 4 years ago when North State came in really heavy, and they were a pretty good ways up in some yards. But it is an issue, and we're hearing about it probably 3 or 4 different people a week So the answer would be to tell them, you need to contact your state representative and see if they can change the laws regarding that.
The pictures I got was probably the same ones you got. And this guy that lives in this subdivision here in Kernersville got a little bitty yards, you know, where the developer comes in and tries to see how many houses he can put on an acre, the kind of things I don't like. And anyway, you got a yard about as big as this carpet right out here.
Yeah.
And half of it's tore all up.
Same one.
Concrete, got mud, red dirt everywhere.
They will
Just
go.
a mess, and
Yeah.
chew up your grass and then throw out a little bit of straw out there like that's gonna fix it.
Yeah, and they'll go back and they're supposed to go back. Now, we can, you know, if in one situation they've dug up the road, you know, we can require them to go, to make sure that they go back and they fix the road, they clean up the sidewalk. There's not a whole lot, you know, we can't make them go back and make his yard look just like it looked before. We can kind of put some pressure on them, and we do go out and check them to make sure that they do what they're supposed to do. But a lot of times, and I tell a lot of people, hey, if it goes to a certain point and it's kind of out of our hands, then it becomes an issue between you and them. As
You said that they got a permit from the state that allowed them to encroach on right-of-ways?
they have an encroachment permit to where they can work in the right of way,
In the right-of-way.
and we're required to give them an encroachment permit.
But that doesn't allow them to park in the middle of the road and back cars up and stuff, does it?
They can park in the road to do the work, yes.
How do they do that?
It's just like,
Because I've looked up the statutes. The only thing in North Carolina that's allowed to park in the road is a trash truck.
yeah, I mean,
And
it's just like,
anybody else, and we can ask the chief about this, go out there and write these people tickets.
if we don't have it designated as no parking on that road, then they can park there.
Yeah, but if they're parking in the road and blocking the road, chief, you can speak to this. If they blocking the road up, that's a hazard, is it not?
You know, they can't block the road. They can't do that. They can park in the road, they just
They
can't
block
block.
one lane, they block the road, you know.
Yeah,
block
if
part of it.
they have a flagger out, which they probably wouldn't in this
They
situation.
don't have flaggers. I've
Yeah.
been out there and seen them. They just, you know, I think we ought to put the police on them and start writing them a bunch of tickets till they do the right thing. It wouldn't take them long before they figure out what they needed to do.
Yeah, we could do that and put some heat on them about not parking in the road.
Well, that and not having flaggers and all this kind of stuff, you know, they just stop and throw out a yellow cone and think that's all fine, you know, and it's not.
And I would read the full general statute in its entirety, but it might give them that leeway to do that. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
It's pretty much in their favor.
Well, I'm sure.
You can see
but-
where the money went to
Yeah.
when it started flowing in.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I got something.
Okay.
Let's see, I had a couple of things. Let's see here. We talked about the sidewalk to the 4th of July park from the YMCA to the 4th of July park. What's the deal on that? I haven't heard nothing about it lately.
I can get you an update. I don't know. I can get you an update for Tuesday.
It's on the plan though, right?
Yes, sir.
Good deal. The other thing was, I wanted to put a ramp off of West Mountain Street onto that 74 highway. And I think we need to do something about that and make that happen. I really do.
I will tell you, I've talked to Mr. Ivy about that,
Yeah.
and there's not going to be one at Pisgah Church.
Right.
I don't know where they will put the ramp to
On
access.
the south side, I
74.
think they got enough room there.
But that would be entirely DOT. I mean, I think we could, the board, if the board wanted to, could adopt a resolution asking DOT to look into that. I agree. I mean, there does need to be one there for easy access, and probably should have been one there when they built it. They didn't put one there for whatever reason with the railroad tracks and the graveyard there at the church and everything else. And from what I remember, and it's just from memory of looking at the kind of the future plans, there is an proposed on off-ramps there, but they are further west up Mountain Street. Now, how they would tie back in, I don't really know, but, you know, the board could certainly adopt a resolution asking DOT to study that and look at the feasibility of it.
Okay. I think that's what we need to do that, so.
Can we do that at the next meeting?
Probably have it, we'll work on it and see if we can get one drafted for the next meeting. If not, we can certainly have it for the one at the end of October.
Okay.
Thank you, Curtis.
Thank you.
I think I'd be okay. What do you think, Mr. Barrow? I think I'd be okay with asking in the alternative, our first preference being off of West Mountain Street and the second being that other location that you were mentioning.
Yes.
West Mountain Street's too important a road not to have that access.
Yep, we can do that.
Okay.
If we get it drafted, we'll send it out to you. If we get it drafted for Tuesday, we'll send it out.
Said they drew one in there in the very beginning.
There was one there,
Yeah,
from what I remember,
yeah.
and somehow or another it got eliminated and never got put back into the plan. You know, and to me, it would make sense to have one there because really now you have to go up to 158 and get on it.
Oh, yeah.
Which dumps a lot of traffic in the Walkertown right there on 66 and 158, which at the time, the mayor of Walkertown and myself, we were both on the TAC, and we expressed that concern is how you're going to load Walkertown up with traffic, and they already have a lot of traffic at that intersection. But it should help some once we get Big Mill Farm Road over to Salem Parkway, then you can go up Salem Parkway and get on it. But you still got, you know, if you're on West Mountain Street, it'd be a lot easier to get on it right there than it would be to come down Hopkins Road over to Big Mill Farm.
Right. I think that if we get ramps off of that 74, we don't even need to do that Big Mill Farm thing. I think we can sell the land back to whoever wants it and just, you know, everybody can use that 74 off of West Mountain. My thought. I believe that's all. Oh, I got one more thing. The Kernersville pool that we're going to build in the next so many years, I'm on the rec board, and we're working on a strategic plan, right, Arnie? Yeah, and we'll include the pool in that, and I just thought I'd give everybody the high sign that was coming. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gorham? Oh, no volume to your mic. We need to get a new mic. All right. Mr. Penix? Sometimes we get projects done fast. Fast track the pool. It'll be cheaper to build 2 years from now than 20 years from now, right? So I'm excited that and wanted to congratulate Chrysler Electric and John Deere for the groundbreaking for the Chrysler Electric there at Bodenhammer Street in West Mountain. Chris Comer with the chamber and Alderman Barrow and I attended their ceremony, which was very nice. They had a lot of people there from both companies, so it was a nice celebration of what's to come in Kernersville, and they thought they would have it constructed and open by the end of 2025. So good news there. And then also just excited about the upcoming celebration of 100 years of fire service for the Kernersville Fire Rescue Department this November, celebrating 100 years of service. And that's something to look forward to and celebrate in our community. All right, is there Any further business in open session? Well, is there any further business at this time before the board, or do I have a motion for the closed session?
Madam Mayor. Thank you. Madam Mayor, pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3, I move that the board go into closed session to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged.
I have a motion by Alderman Gorham, second by Alderman Thompson. All in favor? It's unanimous. This board is now in closed session. Thank you for joining us. Welcome back to the regular meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. Is there any further business before this board in open session? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? Got a motion by Alderman Thompson. Second by Alderman Gorham. All in favor? It's unanimous. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you for joining us.